A little bit on shading and values. Both those subjects are really fun, big subjects with all sorts of really cool things to learn and experience. I'm going to keep it nice and simple for this, and I'm just going to work on this first sample. I have a page of examples here that are combinations of some different pencils and a variety of things. This first sample is just using this Mars Lumograph 4B, which is my favorite sort of main all-around great pencil. And I want to have a good idea of just what sort of range I have in with using this pencil and this paper and this kneaded eraser. Nice simple tools. So let's do that. First of all, I'm going to create a no-nonsense rectangle, just like the examples you saw. I'm using the side of my pencil and I'm creating these really sketchy, soft construction lines. And I'm adding a little bit of extra graphite because I'm going to be smudging and blending this left side especially. So I'm laying in a little bit of extra graphite, more than I probably would if I was just creating construction lines and for a particular drawing, or I wasn't going to do what I'm about to do now, and that is to bring in one of my handiest blending tools, which happens to be my finger, and it's right here, and it's already attached and all that fun stuff. There's some downsides to using your fingers, but we're focused right now on just kind of keeping things as simple as possible, not juggling more things than we can really sort of take in and understand at a time. So especially on this left side, I'm going to sort of create some blending and smudging, because what I'm going to do now is come in with my kneaded eraser and once again really sort of just try to think of this tool as its own drawing tool, not necessarily just an eraser, although it's that as well. So for this first shape, I'm just going to pull out, if you will, that graphite to sort of reestablish how light the paper is. It's a great thing to sort of both get familiar with this reductive nature of drawing, as well as sort of start seeing how really subtle changes can be pretty obvious. I'm going to do something now which is clean up a little bit, but it brings up the notion that I really am trying to not get lost in details here up front. I'm trying to just really kind of establish this rectangle and the different values of this particular value scale, which is admittedly extremely simple, and there's all sorts of very involved value scales with 0 to 10 and 10 to 1 and pretty much any sort of combination, but we're keeping it nice and simple here. So next I'm going to take the opportunity to practice my vertical shading over the rest of this entire shape. A couple things. I'm really only pressing down on the downstroke. I'm using the side of my pencil. I'm going very light so that I know I can erase. I'm holding it in a way sort of back at the end like this, that will help me just sort of hold the pencil on its side. A lot of things are sort of going into the position of my hand and the paper being vertical, but play with kind of just different holds to help get a sense of being able to draw with the side of the tip. I'm overlapping. I'm trying to sort of overlap the downstroke. And I'm staying nice and light. And now I'm gonna blend again, this time with my pinky. That doesn't really matter. Well, maybe it does. It's a bit of a smaller tool. So that's going to sort of cover my second swatch, second shape there. And I'm sort of building up. I'm adding layers, which does help get darker in a way that's I think gives you sort of more control, as well as it's not going to ruin the paper. The downside of layering many layers, especially if you're just using graphite, is that eventually you're going to start going so dark and basically like burnishing the graphite that it will become shiny. And that can be a cool thing. It can be an annoying thing. Depends on your take. But for this next two shapes, I'm going to switch directions, as you could see. Also described as cross hatching. Hatching is a whole nother subject. This is sort of shading and cross hatching at the same time. I kind of think of this as. I'm applying a little bit more pressure over both of these shapes. And I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to blend with my pinky once again. And you can tell I'm not really cleaning things up. I'm not worried about details just right now. I'm worried about the big picture, which is establishing the range of light to dark with this particular combination of tools. The layering is good to build up in this cross different opposite directions sort of way. Actually, all sorts of directions have their place as well. But for now, I'm just focusing on this vertical shading and this horizontal shading, and going back and forth between those to help to darken a shape. So for this last shape, I'm going to go back to my vertical stroke. Same kind of idea. I'm overlapping. I'm using a lot more pressure, but I'm still trying to keep things nice and even. I'm trying to not worry too much about being exactly within the lines. I'm going to come back and worry about those details later. I think I'm actually going to do another layer. This will definitely make this shiny, but that's okay for now. So now I have a pretty good idea of sort of the range from just paper to a bunch of graphite. Look, what I've just done also is change the angle of my pencil. Oh, look. Just so I can apply a little bit more pressure, but still trying to keep that stroke nice and overlappy. now I'm going to come back in and just kind of try to establish a cleaner transition between each of these swatches. Doing a little bit of pressure on this third one. This is going very light. You're going to hopefully get a really good sense of being able to use a light stroke versus a strong pressure stroke. I'm going to try to clean up this second one a little bit. I can tell right in here that there's some things going on that I don't necessarily want to be going on. So what I'm going to do is get out my kneaded eraser. I'm going to lift up a little bit of graphite from there. This can be a really fun tool, sort of like silly putty. You can literally, press it against, oops, your drawing and pick up the graphite. It's quite handy. So that shape was getting sort of confusing and not really refined, unclear what was going on. So I'm now going in, this is more of the detail part, but I was very careful not to start out with this. It's so easy to get lost in trying to take care of details up front and then finding oftentimes that those details that you spent so much time on are really not helping your drawing. I'm going to come along here. I'm going to sort of reestablish this shape, this line. This is my box. And the other thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to call this almost done. Let me make that a little bit crisper. The other thing I'm going to do just now is come back in with my my kneaded eraser and clean up things around the outside. And I like to think of this as really kind of both erasing, but also just sort of drawing in the negative shape. I'm kind of thinking of this as a white area that I'm drawing. It just happens to be going around this little swatch sample. I want to make sure I sort of don't lose the shaded out quality of what was going on, so I'm going to just kind of come in and redo that. And then come back in and reestablish just what the lightest value is with my kneaded eraser again. there's certainly all sorts of erasers that are going to give you finer control. But as I'm sure I'm saying probably too many times, trying to keep it simple, which is a minimal number of tools here. I think that's fine for now. Maybe I'll go get lost in some more details off camera. But hopefully you get the idea. Give this a go. I'm going to do another one where I bring in an additional tool to help a little bit with the darkers not getting as shiny, as well as just darker in general. Okay.